governments can do this, especially in communities that are grossly affected by the food security problem?
Well, thank God for the Supreme Court judgment that has finally restored financial autonomy to local governments.
Right.
Ordinarily, local governments are the closest to the people. They are closer to the wards. The federal government and state government, they are far off to the people, but local governments. So I think that local governments now that they have started receiving their funds, I want to assume that by this distribution, disbursement about 3 weeks ago, right. July, they have started receiving funds. Let them sit down. Each of the local governments in the country should look at producing food that is of comparative advantage to them and trying to solve the problem of their local populace.
Right.
And that is the only way you can bring support to the people. Ordinary, in a normal situation, federal government has no business with farming. The only area where the federal government should come in the area of subsidizing the cost of importing agricultural equipment for the states and for the local governments. Yeah. But because the governors are in charge of land, the federal government, the president doesn't sign any CFO, but the governors are in charge. And even in another area, the local governments are closer to the lands. They know where the land is. They know the geographical area, the arable land they can plant. So let them advise themselves to plow the fund they are getting now into areas that are very important, that will touch the people at the grassroots, that will touch each of the states, like my state now, I know they have about maybe 2,000 wards. Right. Each of the chairmen of local government, right. They know how many wards they have. So when you know how many wards you have, you should be able to sit down and plan the kind of food those people need. What do we expect from local government? Food, health, primary education. Those are the important things. So local government should begin to focus, now that they have funds released to them, let them focus on those key areas that will make life meaningful for the residents of the local government area. Let there be dispensaries that are well run. Let there be primary schools that are well run. People don't have to travel 10 kilometers to go to any general hospital.
So let them feel the impact of governance.
Let people feel the impact of governance.
Right.
The ball is now in their court. No local government has any excuse now not to do that one which they are supposed to do as per the position of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So because they have roles to play, and now they have funds, no excuse.
Absolutely. BKO, your final thoughts on this conversation before we move to our next topic?
Yes, I think our governors need to show greater empathy. We are used to blaming the federal government for everything. We are heaping all the blame on the president and not looking in the direction of the state governors. The federal government has not got land of its own. The state governments have lands. How many of them are actually embarking on tremendous cultivation of land so that we can stimulate agri production?
Absolutely.
They are far more interested in awarding contracts where there's a greater chance of making money than actually getting involved in agri production, apart from a few governors. I'm sorry to say our governors are just not interested. And if we boost agri production, it will also help us to boost our economy. Agri still remains the highest contributor to the GDP of our country till today, and is the highest employer of labor. You know? So we need to do a lot. Now, by now, we should be preparing seriously for dry season farming. Dry season farming of wheat, for example. Our country used to produce a lot of wheat. Today, what are we doing? We are extremely reliant on importation of wheat. On Ukraine and other places. They will use wheat for bread, they will use wheat for noodles, they will use, so, for confectionery. So, it has become, bread has become extremely expensive now because the bulk of the stuff that they use in baking it are imported. Baking powder, sugar, all of these things, yeast. So, we need to stimulate agri production.
Absolutely.
Yes, the federal government can lead the way, but we need to see what governors are doing. Look at the example of the governor of Niger, for example. I know that he can do much better. But he has started on a good note, and he wants to be identified with agriculture. In fact, he has added the farmer to his name. That should call me Farmer Bago, you know. So, in the Awolowo years that we always talk about here, we relied on money that we made from cash crops. All of those Lagos bridges that you see, those Lagos bridges, you go to the island, all of those bridges, they were built not with petrodollar,
Yes.
but
Agriculture.
from money that we made from agri. That was when Nigeria was in the top 10 in most of the big cash crops. Today, we brushed aside agriculture because we saw crude oil. Everybody is now focusing on the money from crude oil. And look how we are suffering even as a country. We can't produce enough crude oil. So for even our refineries, if Dangote were to start today, I'm telling you that they won't be able to find enough crude oil for a 650,000 barrels per day refinery. This is the truth. I'm not a doomsday prophet. This is the truth. And we will all see. We are not producing enough.
Well,
not to talk of refining. If we can't even produce enough crude oil,
the OPEC quota says
we are not meeting our quota.
We are not even meeting our quota.
We are not meeting our quota.
So
and some time ago, we were doing about 2.3 million a day. The other day, they told us it's 1.6.
It's now 1.6.
Before now, it was not even up to that.
It's 900,000.
Less than. In other words, stimulation of agricultural production is key to avert food crisis, among other things, in our country. Well, let's quickly move on to our next discussion, where a well-crafted policy, they say, is only as good as its implementation. Well, in line with this, the federal government has inaugurated a 10-man interministerial committee to ensure that states comply with the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. Well, the committee members include the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edu, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, and the Accountant General of the Federation. Tunde, let me come to you on this because, yes, finally you talked about local government autonomy, and that is something that we should be looking at. And this is something the federal government hopes to implement following the Supreme Court's ruling. But how true now can local government autonomy be achieved, without state interference, as it were?
Well, I think in a normal situation, there's no need for this kind of committee. Why? If we are law-abiding citizens of the country. Any pronouncement of the Supreme Court is law in any civilized country. They have made their pronouncement that funds that are meant for local government should be sent directly to local governments.
Right.
Now that we now have to raise up a committee, I could remember during the tenure of the president when he was governor of Lagos State. After he has won the right to create the SCDAs, and the then president Obasanjo seized the fund, the Supreme Court gave a ruling, and they asked him, why is it that they have not released funds for Lagos State? He said he's not aware. People now ask that, was the judgment delivered in German or French? Even if it was in a foreign language, you have people who can interpret it for you. We refuse to adhere to the rule of law. It's about the rule of law. So naturally, yes, I commend the president for doing that, but it's something that you should not have done in the first instance because there was a judgment. Any governor, and why the governors are behaving like this is because they have immunity. They have immunity. They believe they can flout laws. But what I want to just tell the 36 state governors is that if you refuse to allow local governments to work, one day you will be held accountable for the failure of the system. Because the head of the 774 local governments in Nigeria, the head of those local governments, the head of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If those local governments lack fund, if they cannot move, then state government cannot be said to be functional. You see, sometimes ago, about 6 months ago, there was an allegation that a governor even claimed openly that he was awarding contract on behalf of the local government. What business do you have for awarding contract? I could remember in the late 80s, even when the military was in power, each of the local governments, at least I was in Oguze for 5 years, practicing as a journalist, they will address press conference, each local government chairman, about their program for their people based on the budget under military government. not even civilian government. So let the local government have their own power. We should, all this committee, there's no need for it. But because Nigeria is an abnormal situation, yes, it's abnormal situation, they should make sure that, because there's a way in which governors can twist the local government chairman not to release more for them. But I like the charge of the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, who said that local government chairmen should remember that they have no immunity. If you refuse, or if you give the money given to you to your governor, one day somebody will ask you to come and account for that money. Yes. Because we have no business with poverty at all.
Right.
It shouldn't have. So this committee, thank God that the president has done it, but it is unfortunate that it is a reflection of the kind of people we are. After his Supreme Court has given judgment, you now have to set up a committee to enforce, as if we are in military rule. I think people should have respect for rule of law in Nigeria.
And talking about respect for rule of law, BK, what legislative measures now would I say, or would you propose rather, to ensure transparency, proper monitoring of local government funds, so to speak?
I want to see the non-governmental organizations get involved. What we see a lot of our NGOs doing is collecting money from politicians and sometimes organizing fake protests for politicians who have paid them. Because some of the issues that you sometimes see them carry on their heads, you just wonder what has gone on with these people. Those are issues that shouldn't bother them. You know? Issues around transparency, that is what they should bother themselves about. Right. Not some politicians quarreling and then you gather some people, they will now carry placards to say, one non-governmental organization is saying this is what government should have done. No, that is overreaching yourself in the most ridiculous way.
Right.
They have to put their eyes now on the funds of local governments. Ensure that now that these guys are going to have access to a tremendous chunk of funds that they never had access to before, those funds have to be used judiciously and for the good of our people. This is not an opportunity for a local government chairman to become far richer than necessary, to the point that he will now be taking multiple wives. So there are some of our people, the way to know that their levels have changed is to find out how many wives they now have. For some people, once they become a little bit richer than their previous situation, they are going to get a second wife. For them, adding wives is a status symbol. I'm not against polygamy. But what I'm saying is, using public funds to acquire wives should not be tolerated. But if we drop the ball, if we all refuse to be vigilant, honestly, this will be like a case of from fry pan to fire. It will get a lot worse because people who have not been used to seeing big funds, when they see it, you can even turn their heads. They will now be misusing funds anyhow. If you are saying, governor, don't get involved and all that. I know that governors too had overreached themselves over the years with council funds.
But what kind of strategy do you think we can, apply here to prevent local governments from going that route?
It is the structures that will promote and encourage vigilance must be put in place. What are the anti-corruption agencies doing, for example? They should, at this time now, they should know that, yes, with this decision of the Supreme Court, corruption may go a notch higher at the local government level.
Right.
So they have to be vigilant, make examples of local government chairmen caught with their fingers in the till. They have to make examples of them. If we do that consistently, they will sit up. They will know that, look, this is no longer business as usual. If I tamper with funds, I will go to jail. The problem is that our judicial system is too whimsical. And because it's so whimsical, a lot of people get away with blue murder. Or their cases go on and on and on and on until everybody gets tired. That's not what we want to see.
Right.
But I believe that NGOs, for example, NGOs,
Civil society.
civil society groups, they should get a lot more involved. That is how we can bring development to the grassroots level. That's how we can allow our people, the majority of our people, to feel the impact of government. Because government, the impact of government is not felt at the local government level, at the grassroots level. A lot of people do not feel. You drive through some communities, no road, no lights, nothing. No form of civilization at all. I've been to some places that I wonder. There was a time I went to do a story about a community in Kankara local government area of Katsina State. My God. A road that normally shouldn't, a distance that normally should take just 15 to 20 minutes. We were on it for more than 2 hours because it was in such a deplorable state. You wonder, how do some people use that road every day? No light, nothing. And when Boko Haram or any of these terrorist groups strike, they have no network. They have no means of raising an alarm. That was what happened in that last attack in Kaduna. That was what happened. The chief of defense staff even told me that they didn't get information until the next day because they could not communicate. And the nearest military facility is more than 40 kilometers away. They could not communicate. They could not use phone, no network, nothing. I'm sure there's no base station at all in that area. So how do you then reach people?
In case of emergency.
But now with local governments having access to greater funds and being put in charge of their funds, rather than the overbearing governors dictating how much a local government chairman gets, you are dictating what a local government chairman gets on money that does not belong to you. You are the one sitting and presiding over a sharing of money that does not belong to you, all in the name of joint account. And you know, the Supreme Court, the judgment was quite clear that the so-called joint account had been abused over the years, because you can't look into a governor's eye or eyes. It will make sure that you are removed. Governors suspend chairmen.
Yes.
Whereas the Supreme Court had ruled in the past that you cannot remove a local government chairman that was duly elected. Well, governors will still go ahead and do it. If you fight a governor as a local government chairman or you challenge him, he's going to deal with you.
Well, we have to leave this conversation right now because of time. Well, thank you so much for this perspective brought to bear on this issue. We hope that those responsible should take action and ensure that local governments perform optimally. Well, let's quickly go on a very quick break. We have more discussions on Journalist Hangout. Stay with us.
And cable, great quality, now with the new look.
Welcome back. You're still on to Journalist Hangout. Now, the last has not been heard about the political situation in Edo State. This time, Philip Shaibu secured another victory as the Court of Appeal voided his impeachment and affirmed him as the deputy governor of the state. Well, the judge who delivered the judgment described the impeachment by the State House of Assembly as illegal and unconstitutional. The appellate court also added that the Federal High Court in Abuja, which earlier dismissed the Edo Assembly's impeachment, was right to reinstate Shaibu as the deputy governor. Well, let's hear from Shaibu himself.
Again, God has answered this morning for dismissing the appeal filed by Edo State House of Assembly. And by the grace of God, all cases against me, because Nigerians and Edo people are with me in prayers, knowing fully well that I'm the oppressed, and I'm the one being intimidated and harassed by anti-democratic forces. I know they will continue to pray for me, and victory will continue to be for us. For today's judgment is victory for democracy, is victory for the judiciary, really. True. Because Edo State House of Assembly were the one that purportedly impeached me, and the case today has been dismissed. The appeal is dismissed, and it is dismissed. So I'm happy about it. And this, like I said, is victory for democracy, victory for judiciary, and victory for Nigerians that hate oppression.
Well, the now reinstated Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, speaking there. BKO, let's get your assessment first off on the judgment and the likely implications regarding the relationship between the Edo State Governor and his now reinstated Deputy Governor. Where do you see this heading to?
Yes, Justice Omotosho on July 17 declared null and void Philip Shaibu's impeachment by the Edo State House of Assembly that was evidently simply doing the bidding of the governor. This is an example of a House of Assembly without a spine, an House of Assembly without a mind of its own, but simply doing the bidding of the executive. The framers of our Constitution did not envisage a situation in which an House of Assembly will have what amounts to a golfer-caddy relationship with a governor. You know, the caddy of a golfer is the one who carries his bag, all of his golf clubs, the balls, everything. The boy will be the one carrying it. Golf courses are usually big, some of them having up to 20, 21 holes. The caddy will go around until they are through with practicing or playing the tournament. Is the one who carries the bag. So they've turned themselves to Governor Obaseki's caddy. Because how do you simply, you made up your mind that, look, this person must be impeached. You were in too much of a hurry, and due diligence was not followed. That is what Justice Omotosho ruled upon, that they didn't follow due process. And the law is clear about what and what you need to do before a person can be validly impeached. And everyone is entitled to his fundamental human right, the right to fair hearing. If you do not get fair hearing on any matter, even if it has to do with what is it called, chieftaincy matter, the courts, even the Federal High Court, can come in. That's why I disagree with those lawyers who kept saying, no, Federal High Court has no jurisdiction on chieftaincy matters. There are no jurisdiction on chieftaincy matters. But Sanusi got judgment from a Federal High Court against Ganduje when he was banished to Toto in Nasarawa State. Once it has to do with the matter of enforcement of someone's rights, the Federal High Court can come in, whether it's a chieftaincy matter or not. It may not now, if there is a substantive matter around maybe how the person was chosen, how he became a traditional ruler, then they are going to back out. But if it's the enforcement of the fundamental rights of the individual that the individual approached them about, they are obligated as a court in our country to delve into the issue. So that is clear. All of those stuff that we were reading, Federal High Court does not have jurisdiction in chieftaincy matters. There are instances where they can exercise jurisdiction. I've given the example of Sanusi. Yes. Why didn't Sanusi approach a Kano High Court? Why did he go to a Federal High Court? So these things, you just leave lawyers and their games. Some of them have made up their minds that they must first mislead Nigerians, depending on where they stand on a matter. On this matter, the judge was quite clear that due process was not followed in removing him, and it's not the first time. Right. Remember the immediate past deputy governor, the deputy governor to Matawale in Zamfara. That is the son of Nigeria's former spy chief, Aliu Guso's son. He was impeached, but the courts avoided the impeachment because they were in such a hurry. So the impeachment is not known to law. The same way Fayoshe's impeachment back then was not known to law. The Supreme Court threw it aside. So when people call Fayoshe impeach the governor, they don't know what they are talking about because that impeachment was not recognized by law. And that's why he could come back to contest less than 5 years after his impeachment. Ordinarily, if you got impeached, it's like being convicted. You can't come and contest an elective position within 10 years. Well, that's just by way of saying. Now, in this matter, the judge said Philip Shaibu was wrongly impeached. Now, that judgment of the Federal High Court, it has been appealed. There were 3 appeals before the court. The interlocutory injunction, the appeal against the interlocutory order given by Justice Egwatu was withdrawn by the State Council, by the Edo State government. Now, when you withdraw a case, you come before a court to withdraw a case, the court will then officially strike out the matter. That is the process, that is the procedure, that is the structure. When you come before a court to say, okay, I want to discontinue this matter, the court will now officially strike out the matter by itself. That was what happened.
Oh, okay.
The matter of the appeal, the main appeal against the impeachment, is on. They've just filed, served the governor with their, their claims and all that. The governor's side the deputy governor will give its response, like a kind of counter to what they have prepared. That is where they are now. The judgment on the impeachment has not been given.
Right.
The appeal, the judgment in the matter of the appeal of the impeachment has not been given. It's just 3, as I said earlier, 3 appeals were before. On their own, they decided to discontinue the appeal against the interlocutory order given by Justice Egwatu. And when you say you are discontinuing an appeal, the court will now officially strike out that matter so that it wipes the slate clean. It's no longer in its books. That is what happened. But the media has interpreted it in a way that suggested that, the appeal has been decided. No.
It's a case of misrepresentation of fact.
Yes, misrepresentation of the processes of the court. This is what happened. Just like even during the Kano saga involving those 2 emirs. some of the pronouncements of the court were deliberately twisted, based sometimes on the limited knowledge that a journalist has.
Available to the reporter at the time.
So, and that's why people always say, okay, wait until you see the certified true copy. Because the certified true copy is not an interpretation of what transpired in the courtroom. It's not an interpretation. It is facts, right, summarized. But our people subject court. That's why you see, aren't you sometimes embarrassed that we are interviewing two lawyers involved in a matter? The interpretation that this lawyer will give will be different to the one that the other lawyer will give. And the journalists will just put mics in their mouths. Agbenusi mic. They'll just put mics in their mouth and they'll be confusing us. So I'm saying that the matter of impeachment has not ended. So this is something that I believe will go all the way to Supreme Court. I'm very sure to get all the way to I'll be happy if at the end of the day, Shaibu gets justice or not again. Thomas Ejen is pursuing that now, and you can see that the Nigerian government will eventually agree to make peace with Onogen. If Onogen, if it is affirmed that he was wrongfully removed, it's not going to come back as Ejen, but his image will be intact. His integrity would have been restored. Yeah.
To an extent, absolutely. So, but in the midst of this, Tunde, first off, we understand, most political, let's say gladiators now, or public office holders, they are always seen in this squabble. We have the case of Rivers, and now we have this in Edo State. But then the major issue here is that they say when two elephants fight, the grass suffers, and this will largely affect governance. So, but what do you make of the situation where political office holders are always at loggerheads and the impact of governance suffers in the process?
Well, I think, first of all, it is the fault of the Constitution. When you look at the history of relationship between governors and their deputies in Nigeria, right, the only thing that is constitutionally assigned to deputy governors is the chairman of the Boundary Commission. Any other role that the deputy governor is playing is at the discretion or magnanimity of the sitting governor. So the deputy governors, they are more or less like by the way they borrow dating, but they say that they are repeater stations of the major station. They are more or less edging their belt there. They are not performing any assigned role except by the grace of the governor. I could remember that as we speak now, it's only Lagos State that assigned roles to the deputy governor beside being chairman of Boundary Commission. That is, all the deputy governors we have had in Lagos since 1999, they head one particular ministry based on their expertise, based on their area of expertise. So if the Constitution can take care of this, it will remove the burden between governors. For instance, in Nigeria, no governor has ever handed over power to their deputy. Go back since 1999. No governor has ever handed over power. Yes, to their deputy. So the problem we have now is that the Constitution has to be done in such a way that it will clearly say but that is the area of conflict.
Right.
Secondly, is that I think we should have enough. What Shaibu has done is novel in the sense that we should test the law by appealing against whatever we think is against us. When you test the law, like Jide said, this thing will ultimately end at the Supreme Court. But for some others, they will not test the law. They will just go home quietly. A deputy governor that you can still settle with your boss, so don't fight your boss. So no, that is not the way to deepen democracy.
Right.
Let anybody that is aggrieved test the law, and let governors and their supporters too know that democracy, it takes time to grow. It takes time, it needs patience. So when we don't test the law and we have no patience for democratic principles, because democratic principle entails that you have to respect the rule of law. And when you respect the rule of law, you allow yourself, you give yourself limits. You don't assume a larger than life image, like governors behaving like emperors. I just pray that local government chairmen will not replicate what our governors have been doing since 1999. So the most important thing is that let supporters and those people who are holding office know that there's always a limit. We should not circumvent the Constitution. For us to build democracy, we have to have patience. And anybody that is wrongfully removed from office, like Jide said, our lawmakers too, they swore to protect the law. They swore to be representative of the people. They should not allow themselves to be unnecessarily caged by the overbearing power of the governors.
Right.
So because if the members of the House of Assembly allow themselves to be used, then it has no meaning. So it means that the governors are autocrats by the Constitution. So I think for us to develop democracy, everybody should take care of his own end.
Right.
Everybody whose right has been infringed upon should test the law by going to the court.
Absolutely.
Going to the Supreme Court, up to the Supreme. So let Shaibu continue to test the law.
Absolutely. Let's quickly move on to our next focus, where the rate of fuel importation in Nigeria is becoming more worrisome. Well, in a recent report, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, confirmed that the federal government incurred a debt of 5.1 trillion naira in under-recovery and energy security expenses for fuel importation in 2023. It also added that a total of 9.38 trillion naira debt was incurred by the federal government for fuel imports in the same year. Well, this is as fuel queues linger in the country due to insufficient supply. Well, how long before the giant of Africa live up to expectation in fuel production? BK, I'll start with you on that question.
Well, it's a matter of deep regret that we had leaders who found it so convenient to be importing petroleum products rather than allow for domestic refining. And no one is saying that, domestic refining must be done by the Nigerian government-owned refineries. If you created an ideal situation for big corporate concerns to come here and build refineries, in 2-3 years, they can finish a refinery. Angola just built a new refinery through the PPP model. These are serious countries. Because it was convenient to import petroleum products and steal a lot of money through that. For years, successive governments neglected our refineries. They were not committed to fixing those refineries. They were not committed to building new ones. Because what is the big deal in even building? Between the time Obasanjo was president, those 8 years, if you wanted to build 3 refineries, you could have finished 3 refineries. And we had money that we could have used to build refineries. We had a level of prosperity to the point that we even returned, we even paid our creditors off, So we are paying for the bad choices that our leaders made. And when they wanted to sell the refineries, because Nigerians get emotional about everything, they opposed the refinery, the sale of the refineries, and Yaradua came and reversed it. If private sector was running our refineries, there is no way that it's not possible that those refineries will be
at the state it is right now.
And I had suggested even in 2015, during one of the earliest shows of journalist Hangout, that we can do what Brazil did with Petrobras. Sell shares of the public petrol company to the public. They did that. They did that. And it was even oversubscribed. It set a record. It was oversubscribed. People, no one is saying Petrobras, there is no corruption in Petrobras anymore. But when you get the private sector involved, there's no way that the level of corruption that we see, the level of inefficiency that ensures that today you are not even sure of the availability of products, not to talk of domestic refining. I'm sure that would not happen. Because people are in business. Look at the way the LNG, for example. Look at the LNG. Every year they make money, which Nigeria takes a chunk of the money made, shared among the federating units. That's an example of a company jointly owned by the public and the private sector. And it's delivering
revenue returns.
Good returns. Good returns. You can't manage it yourself. You put some people in charge. They manage it, and you people will come up with a kind of profit-sharing model that makes everybody happy. So why is it difficult for us? 4 refineries, none is working. Over how many years now? I'm talking about refineries that have not worked.
Well, let's not forget that the NNPC
GM
promised that by August it could start work this month. So we've not ended August. Okay. So let's be hopeful, right?
Well, let's be hopeful. You know?
Absolutely.
Politicians are very optimistic people. A politician who knows he will lose an election, he will still tell you that he will win, and his people will be calling him by the name of the position that he wants to enter.
Excellency.
Excellency, sir. Honorable, sir. They know they will not win, no.
And he will be answering to them.
And it will be happy, he will be raising his shoulder.
Well, in this case, let's be positive, right?
I want to be positive, but you know, we are just waiting.
Well, let's just wait. We're still counting down.
I'm more than embarrassed at how many times we've had to make this promise. The people making the promise, it's about time they buttoned up their mouths. Have you? Don't you think so? Because what is the point? You tell me that, okay, you know, don't be worried, don't be bothered, this thing by August 1. And then I wait, August 1 passes. Another month follows it. Another month follows it, and nothing happens. Isn't it about time that you shut your mouth?
Okay, let me get your thoughts on this, Tunde. What do you think can be done? You know, BKO has its own position on this matter with regards to the treatment of petroleum subsidy, well, not subsidy actually, but the refineries and all of that. But what do you think needs to be done to get away from where we are right now?
Well, I think, let me take you back to, Jide said something about Petrobras. About during the time of Jonathan, or towards the end of President Obasanjo's tenure, about 9 companies were given license to operate refineries in Nigeria, to build refineries. But do you know the clause in that license? While they were giving that license, there was also a provision that they can be importing fuel pending the time they will complete their refinery. As we speak today, none of them has built a single refinery because it is more profitable to import, looking at the Nigerian system. So if we give out license to 9 companies, and after 15 years, none of them is able to build a single refinery, then what is wrong with us as a company? So systemic corruption is our problem in this country. And the problem, the earlier the better, we privatize everything in Nigeria. The only thing that is not privatized, as I'm speaking to you now, is the air that we breathe. Because when you build a house, you have your own road, you have power. When you have poles in your community, the day the electric Keja Disco or Bado Disco put power on it, it becomes their property. And when your transformer gets damaged, they will ask you to go and buy a transformer, and they will charge you money. So I think there is something systemically wrong with Nigeria as a country. Why is it that we cannot divulge ourselves from unnecessary state control? So those 9 companies that were given license in 2015, what is happening to them now? It is more profitable for them. So if those 9 companies are built refineries, even if it is mini refineries, we won't be in this deep shit we are in today. And like Jide said,
your language.
The honor of promise is to fulfill your promise. If you know you cannot fulfill your promise, keep your mouth in a permanent state of shut up. Our leaders...
Apologies to Zebudaya.
Okay. So our leaders or our technocrats also who are managing our affairs, they should stop promising. They have promised about Port Harcourt refinery 3 times. From June, it has shifted to July. From July, now August.
Or from April, rather. Let me take you back.
April, yeah. Now, so they have promised 4 times. At least it is not rocket science. You know the capacity of the experts you have hired. Let me tell you something. I've been hearing of TAM since probably when I was in secondary school. We keep on turning around. One would have expected that they would have removed all the old parts and start a new refinery. So for us now, the best thing for us is to diversify and sort of hand over all these commanding heights of our economy to private people to run it as a business.
Right, and that's where we have to leave it.
To stop monopoly in whatever guise.
Right, and that's where we have to leave it, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your thoughts on this crucial topics we've had so far. Tunde Abaton and Babajide Kolade Otitoju. Thank you so much, sirs, for your insights. Well, that's about it, folks, on today's edition of Journalist Hangout. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of the show. You can also watch a repeat broadcast of it tonight at 11. Join us again on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. We are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Esther Makwariola. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.